Welcome back. Welcome in. It's Country Roads Confidential at earsports.com. It's a Paramount podcast. I'm Mike Casazza. That's Chris Anderson. Chris, I go away for a couple of days, keep the headline notifications on my phone, and I could have sworn Saturday was Wednesday. I know it was, but Thursday, Friday, activity, players signing, grown men in the trenches. I don't know. This is one of those things where the coach says, "Oh, we're not done, and we're going to keep going." It's like, all right, that just keeps people happy. No, they weren't done. They kept going, and I guess they did keep people happy because they signed some. I don't know. It looks like notable players, not just checking the box, and not just adding for the sake of adding, like last year when there was no limit. A little bit of a limit this year. 49 players in the class now, but also some of their late additions were kind of coveted players. They probably had to compete and outbid, let's be honest, to get them. It didn't happen Wednesday. It happened Thursday. It happened Friday. It doesn't matter. Since we spoke midstream on Wednesday, what did they accomplish here?
Yeah, so I guess when we spoke, that was before Sir Paul Cheeks became official. So all of those people hoping for the Ash Cheeks combo jersey on the sideline, like the old Dingleberry. Congratulations. And then what Latimer was after that. That was the one that, again, we talked right before the Rich Rodriguez press conference, and then the press conference is happening, and Rich Rodriguez is going, it's talking to you, and then he's looking aside going, can I talk about him yet? Can I talk about him yet? Looking off, looking off, looking off. It finally happens. I don't know if there was concern there. Again, there was Twitter reports of new money coming in from Wisconsin to keep him, all this stuff. I'm going to throw a number out here and I'm going to go ahead and immediately dispel it that West Virginia paid $1 million for a high school running back. Never. No one's paying $1 million for a high school running back. That's no. Um, that happened. And then, yeah, I think he said during the press conference, we might sign a few more today, a few more tomorrow, a few more the next day. And like you said, they always say that, oh, it's not a signing day, it's a signing period.
Right.
We're not done. He meant it. He really meant it. And again, as you noted, like conversations were still ongoing. I believe what Trey McLaughlin, the former Oklahoma State commit, who was teammates with Emory Snyder, who signed on Wednesday, he jumps into the mix just kind of out of nowhere. And we'll get into some of this. I'm going to say out of nowhere, and I think people are going to be like, "Oh, you're just saying that because you didn't report on it beforehand." It just there's already a story on the board. There's more stories coming. You'll see. Um, Trey McLaughlin was one. Jalen Thomas, another big defensive lineman. He was one that had visited West Virginia. He's a massive dude, and it was like, yeah, I think West Virginia has legit chance. And again, I think just history of this day because he didn't sign on Wednesday. I I wouldn't say I let my guard down, but it was like, oh, well, okay, I guess he's out. I guess that's not happening. Just because the history of this is they either sign Wednesday or they don't. Like
Right.
Thursday and Friday are very rarely a thing. But he gets into the mix. What did Darius Wiley? That was one that I think I reported on like Tuesday, being like, yeah, this one's pretty much a done deal. That was one they really expected. And then he didn't sign Wednesday. And then he didn't sign Thursday. And then Friday at 9 o'clock at night, 10 o'clock at night. I mean, it was only a couple hours before midnight. Like because that's when the literal period ends. It comes across. He has signed and is the 49th member of this class.
That's unbelievable. I mean, that's twice as big as your normal recruiting class. And 25 was almost abnormal at some times too. Crazy. I don't know. I have questions, Chris.
Well,
Um,
hopefully I have answers.
yeah, I'm not sure anybody does. Let me to the happier ones here. If you're drafting, like, all right, fantasy draft, Chris, first off the bus, you know that old saying,
Hmm.
looks great in the tracksuit. How does he look in shoulder pads? How does he play? Who cares? But you want to send a message when your guys come off the bus. Those three, Thomas, Henson, and Wiley.
Wiley. Wiley.
Are they lottery picks?
Yeah, I mean that picture that I posted of Jalen Thomas is just a massive human being. I think they list him at 310 pounds, and part of me is like, Where's the 300? I mean, is it all muscle? Is it 300 pounds of muscle with maybe 10 pounds of fat somewhere?
Yeah.
Because that looks like a well put together dude. And then what? Wiley's like 6'7", 250, yeah, 255 pounds is what he's listed at. Henson 6'3", 289. Thomas
Yeah.
listed 6'3", 310. It's pretty big room right there now. Just those three alone added to the room.
McLaughlin, just 6'2", 185. I wonder about him. They wanted length at linebacker. Young guys, high school, they can fly around, do different things. Is he box linebacker? Do you think he ends up in that Sam nickel? Could he be a safety? What's their like? I don't even like really care what Oklahoma State had planned for him because different strokes, different folks. But where does he go here?
I think the plan is to start him at actual linebacker, like Mike, I would think.
Mhm.
But we'll see. I mean, 195 seems light. Again,
Who knows
it's
how
not.
accurate that is, right?
Yeah, it's one 195 is not small, but in the
Uh,
grand scheme of big time college football, your middle linebacker is not going to be 195 pounds. It's going to be bigger than that. But how accurate is that? We see that a lot of times with high school kids. And I'm saying we, like myself included for 24/7 Sports, like we get their heights and weights when we first interview them. It's one of the first questions I always ask, especially if a kid doesn't yet have a profile or it's my first interview with them. I say, hey, what's your updated height and weight? Because I think, we got 5'11", 175 on here. And of course, they'll be, I'm 6'4" and 240. It's like, probably somewhere in the middle, but we'll go with it. And then it just never gets updated again. I think unless they really show up to something, like show up to an actual camp, show up to somewhere where they get measured. So is he 6'2", 195, or is he 205, 210 now? We won't know, I guess, until he shows up on campus, which he is one of the very few that will not be
yeah.
showing up until the summer.
He'll be doing track, Chris, in the spring. Have you seen his track numbers?
I have not. Is he speedy?
Well, yeah, we're talking like a 7.2 in the indoor 60, 200 in under 24 seconds, 400 in under 55 seconds. Those are not elite high school numbers, but again, we're talking a guy's 195 pounds, 6'2", 195-ish, maybe more, maybe less, but in that general ballpark. And to be moving like that, those are big numbers for, I mean, not big numbers, those are little numbers for someone that big. And for a sprinter to be playing your middle linebacker, what were they talking about, Chris? They were not fast enough. I mean, that's the one thing too. We talk about big. I don't know. They did okay at the big stuff here. Like, I don't. That's fine. You always want bigger. I get that, but they just look like they were slow getting sideline to sideline. If you're patrolling your middle linebacker and you're going inside out from the hash to the sideline, from the field to the boundary, so on and so forth. If you're not very big, you probably should at least get there in a hurry. And if you're neither, you're in trouble. We'll see how big McLaughlin is and how big he gets, but he already comes with the speed baked in, and you're talking a sprinter speed or a guy who runs sprints for his high school team, and to have that, I could regale you with long jump numbers too, over 21 feet in a long jump too. So he's got a lot of athleticism there too. I would keep an eye on his track numbers in the spring. I don't know if he'll do it. I don't know why he wouldn't do it. It's a great thing to keep yourself sharp. Guys who are training like that, I don't think you worry about them just going out to the track and pulling a hamstring and coming in bad shape in the summer. So keep an eye on what he does in the spring. But that was my next thing with him is that, oh, is he big enough? Is he heavy enough? They want it bigger, bigger, bigger across the board. 6'2" is fine. The sprint speed, the actual ability to run and get to a spot in a hurry for linebacker, or again, or Sam, or whatever they're going to use him for. We'll see. He's got that. He comes with that. And he's not going to have to find it. He'll get faster, I would guess, or he'll maintain his speed as he gets bigger. A need they had and something they achieved there too, which again, late in the game, that was a guy that I don't know, maybe I have a subsequent question there. He was available in that there was a change. There was a lot of influx in different places, and he was one of those guys to look for here too. Trends. I'm always on the lookout for this.
Hmm.
And West Virginia may be engineering a lot of these too. You've pointed out eloquently, I would say, some of the observations that people have had about West Virginia. You can recap them if you want. Maybe not specific to WVU. In general, maybe this is a player thing, player driven and not necessarily recruiting school driven. Do you find players are maybe holding out a little bit like the day after? Oh, we got extra money. We didn't get this guy we wanted. Um, this guy ended up signing somewhere else. He flipped on us the day after, guys. The second 48-hour guys. Is there a market there? Because you saw West Virginia go in and get a couple of them. And again, like look like they're going to help. Like Jalen Thomas will probably have to play and play a lot next year. We can go over all those guys we just mentioned there too. I don't know, but is there something to that? And again, maybe it's too soon, but I wonder if that's not a smart practice to darn the cap, sign who you can, but look out like the morning after, the 2 days after. Who do we need because of a flip? Who's available that didn't sign? Whose position coach left? We have a little bit of money left over for circumstances that could vary from day to day. I get that, but is that something to really keep in mind as you go forward in these subsequent years?
Yeah, absolutely. I think once they switched to the two signing day situation, the two signing day setup in December and February, there was a lot of, hey man, those guys that don't sign in December, and we saw it. I'm trying to, as you were talking, I was trying for the life of me to remember this guy, and I can't. It was the very first cycle, I think, where there were two signing periods, and he didn't sign with West Virginia for whatever reason in December. And I remember it was coming back into January, but West Virginia was like his only quote big offer. And then all of a sudden you got to January and he had got offers from Oklahoma, Texas, out like everybody all of a sudden was in. And it's for a lot of the same reasons you were just talking about. It's like, hey, now that signing day is actually over, the dust has settled, we look back at our situations. We could use a guy like that. And suddenly they become a hot commodity. It is a gamble. And I think we talked about it at the time. Like it is a gamble to kind of do that. Where you're like, hey, I'm not going to sign. Because the point of the signing day is not to protect the schools, it's to protect the players. These letters of intent, the only people they really truly protect are the players because it guarantees you a spot on the team. Um, and so saying I'm not going to sign and waiting until January, February is a gamble. It has paid off with a lot of dudes. And now I'm wondering if we are shrinking that a little bit. Like instead of, hey, man, who could pull this off and wait till February? Who can pull this off and wait till tomorrow or Friday? To your point of like, run that gamble and wait. Because I can tell you from some of the intel that I've gathered that some of the guys that were involved on Thursday and Friday that West Virginia was involved with, money was a factor. Money was discussed. Money went back and forth. One that West Virginia didn't get that everybody was watching on Friday was Samson Gash, the wide receiver from Michigan. Um, he was kind of back open on the open market. West Virginia, he was previously committed to Michigan State, obviously looking around after the coaching change there. I think he might end up at Penn State now that they've got Matt Campbell. That's where his dad played. He was waiting on an Alabama offer. This all goes back to the summer. He officially visited West Virginia in the summer, and it was the talk then was he's waiting on that official offer from Alabama.
Hmm.
Well, once we got to this point, it was a money discussion that teams were coming back with, hey, let's get this over with and done. Here's a bunch of money. Somebody on the board, this is how this works. The people, hey, we already told the story about the Chris Henry thing where everybody freaked out so much about Chris Henry and WVU that WVU then kind of circled back on Chris Henry, like, hey, by the doesn't sound too crazy, right? And then things, I don't want to say got serious. Again, I answered on the board like I think West Virginia went from 0.1% chance to a 3% chance. So
Oh,
it increased high return on your investment, if you will, but it didn't get that great. But somebody posted on the board, did did we raise all this money for Chris Henry Jr. and now they've pivoted to spending some of it on Samson Gash? I screenshotted that and sent it to someone with an S that then got a laughing emoji and then a thumbs up emoji and then a heart emoji. So I don't know. I'm not hip and cool like the kids these days and know what any of that means, but I took that to mean, yeah, maybe. Maybe that's what happened here. I don't know. Obviously, whatever it was, West Virginia reached a point where they weren't willing to pay what it took to get Gash signed on Friday, is my understanding. And because they are, as they should be, and smartly, they have limits. I mean, they're
yeah,
spending money, and we can talk about that more, but they're not just going to go overpay for kids. Again, if that's what happened there, but I know in talks with other guys, there's a couple players, for instance, where it was like West Virginia is paying here for you watchers, sorry, listeners. Some other team was paying more, and the kid would come back and say, "Hey, what so and so is paying us this much more," and West Virginia would say, "Okay, congrats to them. This is where we're at. Maybe we can come up a little bit, but we will not go to that point." Did that a couple guys leave or not sign because of that? Sure. but they also saw a couple guys that did sign that said, again, money matters, but it was still West Virginia is the best fit. West Virginia is where I want to be. So I'm going to take less money than I would from other schools. But West Virginia held firm in the dollar amounts they were willing to pay.
Yeah, this is fascinating because I can think of at least one player here. I don't want to mention him, but people can probably fill in the blanks here. But word got out a little bit that he might flip to West Virginia, and he ended up staying put. But like that little bit of information getting out, the breadcrumbs became full loaves of bread. And
And
then
this
the
player's
school
head
was like,
coach said it like in his press conference.
yeah. And then, all right, so we should just say it.
Yeah, go ahead.
Lance Dawson, right?
Yeah.
So it kind of came out that maybe he was going to flip to West Virginia. He was thinking about it, and it starts to go around, and Twitter picks up on it. And all of a sudden, Cincinnati, this is what I've heard, was like, wait a minute, what? We thought we had this locked down. He's the top recruit in our class. And now he's going to flip. That would be a really bad look for us. And what do? They pick up the phone, they go back to work, and guess where he signs? Where he was committed to as the highest ranked recruit in the class. And I just, man, there's so many ways to game this system now for everybody's benefit, school's benefit, players' benefit, that it's really, I mean, I don't know how they do this. And then like I don't know how your negotiation is ever finished, even when the ink is dry, Chris, because like there's nothing stopping a player from getting out of his NLI, which doesn't even exist anymore. There's nothing stopping a player from coming in and going out. Like you could sign with West Virginia, you could be at spring football somewhere else. It's nuts. So there's a lot of just strange things like that. But that Dawson anecdote just got me thinking about it's never really over. And then how do you know what you actually see and believe? Because again, I was in Arizona and I was looking at stuff saying Samson Gash, huh? That'd be and typically when those things come out that he's considering West Virginia, he's strongly leaning to West Virginia. It usually means he's going to end up at West Virginia or whoever is the school in that sentence. And that one, I wonder, like, right? I mean, I don't know. I wasn't involved in that one at all. But looking back, I wonder how much of that is Gash saying, "Hey, I'm available. I'm one of the best at my position that's currently available. If someone is looking to fill out their class, the school I wanted to go to, not for me right now. I'd like to at least be compensated for where I go to be happy now. And it's a whole new game for him, but that's symbolic for everybody in a similar situation right now too. And again, I don't know how schools keep their wits about him right here.
Yeah. The quote from Scott Satterfield on Wednesday night, talking about Lance Dawson, we're tickled to get him. We had to step up to get him, and we did.
And that's just the word getting out.
Yeah.
Like prematurely, just I mean, I don't know how it happened or where it originated, but it just got out, and then all of a sudden Cincinnati just kind of like startled, like Santa Claus just waking up, like or no, that would be Santa Claus. Who is the long winter's nap, Maman or Kerchief, right? Too early for me on this stuff here, so maybe we should scratch that one. That's what happens
I
though.
was gonna say, is that Rumpelstiltskin? I'm confusing everything together. I
Yeah,
don't
yeah.
know.
Just bizarre there too. Circling back on something else too, because we're talking about all this money and this strategy that's involved in the game now. People freaked out sometime September, October, I can't remember, because West Virginia didn't spend all of its money on a 4-8 team. Ooh. But they kept that wasn't 5 million. Probably wasn't 4 million. Let's say 4.5 million. Kept about 4.5 million for I don't know, slush fund, whatever you want
Yeah.
to call it. Retain players, but also to use for these purposes we're watching right now. And if it's not necessarily for that, well, there's money in one pocket and it can go to the other pocket. So there's money available. You can do different things, but money that could be spent somewhere else was spent on the class, and money that, you know, could have been spent on the class comes from a leftover fund that you have. I was surprised that people freaked out about this when they first heard about it. And I was sure that we talked about this in September and October. And now that we have the search function on the message board, Chris, I might actually be able to
Oh
find this.
God.
But I know we talked about this in July or
Receipts.
August. Yeah,
Receipts.
I know we talked about this in July or August because I thought it was pretty clever. And I just didn't, like a lot of things, I didn't know because this was all new. I didn't know how significant it was going to be. But also, once that July 1st hit and the house stuff went in and just, you could really front load a ton of deals, but you didn't have to. You could save that money. So now there's a whole lot of regulation, a whole lot. There's some semblance of regulation in there, but West Virginia can spend legally, and so can other schools. They're not unique, but they can spend legally because they had about 4.5 million extra dollars. Most of that's going to be used on retaining players, but if you need a little bit of cash to get a player, to get a couple of players on Thursday, on Friday, or on signing day, I hope people realize what a good move that was right now, too. Like you could have had zero or close to zero in your account because you wanted to get a couple players who are going to help you win a fifth, maybe sixth game. I don't know. Maybe I'm being too dramatic there. Instead, it helps them get their 47th, 48th, 49th recruit. I don't know about that, but listen, they bid for some of these players and won. Like you look at the top of their recruiting class here and some of the rankings, those are players that cost some money to get for sure. Junior college players, high school players, but also look at their best players in the roster that they currently have. If they stick around, it's going to be because they were able to fight off some people before they ever actually had to fight because they can go to somebody right now and say, hey, before you hit the market in the transfer portal in January, why don't we just get this done right now? Go home, be happy at Christmas because you made some extra money. Tell your family that I got you. Here's six figures, whatever. I don't know how this is going to work out, but it just seems like such a smart thing to do then. I thought it was at the moment. And now it just seems like it's for whoever did this, not just West Virginia. It's a really good move.
Yeah, it certainly paid off so far because here's where I understand it is just like you're saying, like they're essentially able to load up on this recruiting class, get a bunch of guys they maybe couldn't have with money that they otherwise might not have had because of it, and they can use it essentially like as front loaded deals for these guys. And maybe you feel a little more not completely front loaded. Like I don't want anybody to freak out like that it's all money up front or anything, but maybe more front loaded than usual. Because typically it's been, hey, percentage here, but the largest percentage once you finish a full season and we get past the first transfer portal. Well, guess what? These guys, the vast majority of them are going to arrive in the spring. And now there is no longer a post spring transfer portal. So you're not concerned about them just going through spring and then transferring. They won't be able to transfer again until after next season. So you can promise them a little bit more money up front, like in February, in March, whenever they enroll and start their first day of practice. And then they wouldn't be able to leave until next January 2027, not 2026. So you're going to get one season out of them, like, unless they just quit and sit out, which I just don't think you could be thinking about that. I mean, it's certainly possible. We have seen it, but I
Yep.
don't think you need to be worrying about that. You worry about yourself with that, you'll never be able to do anything. You're going to be petrified of going out and getting the talent. But yeah,
Yep.
essentially, it's hey, I guess if we had phrased it earlier, of hey, would you rather win 5 games instead of four, or would you rather set the foundation for the next couple years with the best recruiting class in school history on paper so far? Like,
Yeah.
I mean, for everybody, if it was phrased that way, everybody would say the latter. And that's again on paper, that's what's happened. West Virginia has signed the best class in 24/7 sports history with some of the funds that they would have used on the previous team's roster to again go 5 instead 7 instead of 4 and 8.
Mhm.
So yeah, I think it's a good move. I think it's a smart move. I think it's the long play. And I know there's going to be a lot of people, oh, why didn't they do that last year? Again, we've talked about some of the timing with the high school part of it. You're really behind the eight ball. So really all you had to work with was the transfer portal at that point. So there weren't many choices. And I know Rich Rodriguez and his staff have said this several times. So we're just kind of repeating that.
All right, here comes the negative portion of the program.
Oh boy,
The
Skip.
suspicious, the skeptical part. And I think we can talk through this so it doesn't come out negative, and perhaps we can do an explainer on this. Let's do some math.
All right.
Sorry, let's do some math. 49, where West Virginia is at right now.
Okay.
Rich Rodriguez said 12 recruits or 12 transfers. I don't buy that.
Yeah, as I said, can we take a moment to do the math? Because then he broke down position by position
All right,
of
let's do
everything.
that because all right, let's do the math. This is like the long addition problem that has the parentheses and the brackets, right?
Yes.
All right, so let's do the parentheses first, which would be the transfers. And I understand he's talking out loud and not really thinking this through, but I also think that he's rehearsed this so much that it is imprinted in his head.
Right.
Like what he's speaking is that recruiting board that he's stared at for hours and days and weeks on end as he tries to obsess over how to get this right again. So I believe these numbers are probably going to be pretty accurate in the long run, which is why I do not believe 12. That is the basement here. And honestly, if they're like, we're going to get 12 and it's going to be these 12 guys, if they don't get those 12 guys, he's going to keep going until he gets something that resembles the 12 that he wants. So I believe it's going to be over 12 for sure. But let's go over the addition and how he explained this to us on Wednesday.
Yeah. He broke down the numbers. This is by position, not the order he gave them, but the order going offense to defense on a depth chart. Uh, Transfer portal, his desires: one quarterback,
Ta-da!
one, one running back, two wide receivers, three to four offensive linemen, four to five defensive linemen, three to four linebackers, and three to four defensive backs. If you add all of that up, given the range with that, three or four, four or five, that's 17 to 22 transfers. So a minimum of 17 and a max of 22.
Okay. Let's split the middle here. Let's do let's do 20.
Yeah, nice round number.
Round number somewhere in the middle, and it also trends toward the ceiling, which is our suspicion here. All right, now we're at 69 players, Chris. What was and you know what, let's just be honest. In August, they're gonna have two guys show up from the middle of nowhere,
Well,
right?
and he said they might sign a couple more high school kids in February.
Yeah, okay.
So let's just say 70. Just let's be nice and say 70,
There are
just to
going to
have
be
a round number.
70 there are going to be 70 new players on this team.
Do you
How
know
is
how
this
many it
team
was last year?
74, I think?
It ended up being 81. So, uh,
It may
but
very
to your
well.
point, it's basically the same
Okay.
amount of turnover, right?
And again, someone like me who sat down in July and August and said, all right, I don't know if this team is going to be good or not because I've never seen something like this before. What does this team have to do to be good? It's going to have, for example, your offensive line is going to have to play really well, which is going to be hard to do because everybody's new. You're going to have to nail the transfer portal at your skill positions. You're going to have to overhaul like just different things like that had to happen. Chris Darner, they don't have to do the same things again. Like they're going to have to find a number of offensive linemen who can play and play well together. They're going to have to overhaul their secondary. Where they made additions at skill positions, they're going to have to nail those acquisitions. And all the pitfalls that come from having everybody new to the program. They got to learn the culture. They have to learn what it's like either in college football or at the FBS level or at the Power Four level. The only difference here is that it might be a smaller number and it might not be that much smaller. Is there enough returning experience, talent, knowledge, wisdom, plus quantifiable upgrades in talent that they acquired to actually move the needle here and be better? That's the question we can't answer. I think that's the question. I don't think there's any other question. But how is this different? Is it just that they have a greater base of knowledge to work with because of the returning talent, people who understand what this staff wants and how they do it? And did they recruit and acquire players who are collectively so much better than and who and what they had before? That's how they have to make the difference. Am I wrong there?
Yeah, of course you're
Okay.
not wrong.
Well, thanks. Uh, I just that's again that's the suspicious part, and I think a skeptic would look at this and be like, you're just throwing money around to get stars. Can they play? And I don't know yet, but that's the negative part. The positive part is I think you can be a lot more optimistic about both parts of the equation. If they keep a good core of players, like they're not going to have a completely blank slate. That makes a bigger difference than you imagine. Number one. Number two, they just have better players coming in than they did last year. I froze you.
Yeah, no, sorry.
Okay. No, is it as simple as that?
Yeah, I think it might be. Sorry, I was also getting distracted. I got some quote unquote breaking news for you here, Mike, and we can
Oh
come
boy.
back. Are you ready for
Okay.
this? It was in both of our emails. So, um, I saw Golden Blue Enterprises because this is very much related to what we're talking about here. Um,
Ooh.
they just launched. It kind of seems to me like almost like where you can link yourself to an Amazon account so that like if you use a code, like a percentage of your pay goes or whatever you buy goes towards the foundation or whatever that you're donating to. So it's Mountaineer Travel, and if you purchase anything you buy through that site for your own travel, which again I think they put it very well. Where is that quote that I was just looking at? Um, that essentially empowers fans to support their team simply by doing what they already do: travel. If a few thousand fans book one or two discounted trips a year, Mike, you might support the entire men's basketball team with the amount of trips you take. So this is good.
I could use it, right?
The program could generate substantial recurring revenue to support student athlete compensation, program sustainability, and other departmental priorities. We said they got to get creative to get all this money to help everybody out, and it certainly looks like they're trying. This
Holy
just goes,
cow, this is something else.
yeah,
This website is really interesting. So basically, it's like an orbits site. You put in your where you're going to, your check-in dates, all that stuff, and it spits out a travel package for you. And I'm guessing part of this goes to for every dollar spent, a percentage goes directly to help WVU athletics.
yeah. Hey, is it any surprise that the very
Wow.
first thing that popped up on
Myrtle Beach.
Explore Popular Destinations, Myrtle Beach? There you go.
Holy cow. Hey, good for them. Timing is everything here. They couldn't have added this one up here. Yeah, sorry, this is not great audio or video right now, but it's very interesting that they're doing this. And they're working with Waypoint too, which is one of those major travel engine, search engine constructs. Listen, that'll do it now. So also you can save up to 60%, which probably they don't want to don't want to
Yeah.
put too much of that out there. Yeah, that's a good idea to do it. So part of that'll go. Wow. I'll
Um,
probably be on the phone about that sometime soon.
yeah. Sorry, and also real quick back to our conversation here with the 80. So there was 81 new players this time around, this past year. 81 out of 123. This year could be we're saying 70.
Could be close.
And the number is probably I again, you broke down the designated student athlete situation
Mhm.
several times before. And because of how that works, I imagine the total roster number is going to be lower than 123 this year because you can't read you can't newly designate people, right? Like they've been designated and that's it. We're done. So there will never be more designated student athletes than you had previously. So my assumption is then that the number is going to drop from 123 down to 105 over time. Is
Mhm.
that correct? Am I
You'll be you'll just naturally be closer to 105 this
yeah.
year. Probably not right there, but pretty close to it. Uh, that was like players who were recruited before the cap went in last year, or players who would have been cut
Yeah.
had they actually had to cut the limit. You can't retroactively do that. You can't be like, oh, you know what, we were going to cut Scotty Fox, but even though he started 6 games for us last year, but like it's there was a deadline last year, and if you were recruited before that a certain date, or if you were put on this list because you would have been cut had they not allowed you to grandfather students in. That's the easiest way to explain it. That that's in ink. That or that's
And is it
chiseled in
weird if you
stone.
put 123 people on that list back then? Because I think if you're smart and you want a large scholarship number or a large roster, you want as many people on that designated student athlete list as possible, right?
Yep. It had to be Chris, and you know how much you can trust the schools here, but you had to do it, quote, in good faith.
Oh yes, of course, everything.
NCAA considers a designated student athlete a player, quote, who a member institution attests was or would have been removed from the institution's 25-26 roster due to the implementation of roster limits.
Right.
So you're talking walk-ons,
Yeah.
essentially. Like guys who would, like, you know what? Sorry, man, we're at 107. We got to get to 105. We have a couple extra players at your position, and you're just not going to make it. So we got to cut you. They took that away. You were allowed to grandfather players in, and naturally, as time goes on, similar like those COVID super seniors, there's going to be fewer and fewer every year as to go
Right.
along. So they'll be much closer to 105 this year, and the amount that they're over aren't going to be great players.
All right. So run your question back by me again. The one you asked where I was just off in a daze because I pulled up I was trying to pull up this numbers because I had broken down the 2024 holdovers, the early commits, the late commits, the transfers, the numbers because I wanted to go back and answer that. Then I saw that email. I get distracted easily, Mike. Sorry. Go
Sure.
ahead.
Just I'm wondering how it's going to be different because you're going to have close to the same number of players.
Yeah.
You're going to have a need for a lot of them to play, and again, some like the things that had to happen for them to be good last year, like you know what, you have to replace a lot of your offensive line. They're going to have to be very good, even though they've never played together. You're going to have to replace most of your secondary. You're going to have to nail the acquisitions at your skill position on offense. Just things like that. Last year, maybe think, all right, how is this team going to be good? I could repeat them this year. They're going to have to really overhaul their offensive line, three, four, maybe five new starters. Who knows? Secondary is going to be mostly all new. You're going to put a lot of new defensive linemen in skill positions. We'll see who they add, what they have to do, but they're going to have to nail those because they just don't have a lot of returning talent there. And if they did have returning talent, they were not lighting the world on fire. So how is this different? Because they have the number one recruiting class in school history? I don't know. Is it just because they have a greater base to start with? because of returning talent, minimal or as expensive as it may be, but also they just did a much better job putting the recruiting slash transfer junior college class together.
Yeah, I think you found more guys. I think the biggest difference, and I wrote about it the other day, and it's somewhat related to numbers, but mostly dealing with the number of people participating in spring practice. I don't know if you saw this since you were out of town, but the story that I wrote, I went back and checked the numbers. One out of every three starters for West Virginia did not participate. Like one out of every three starters for West Virginia in 2025 did not have a Rich Rodriguez practice until a month before the season started. They were not there for spring football. That's one out of three starters, and I think it was like 40% of the roster was not there for spring football. Only 59% of the players on the roster in the fall participated in spring football. Now, with all of these early enrollees, all these junior college kids, all of these high school kids, again, are they going to come right in and start? Probably not. Are they going to come right in and contribute? I would think quite a bit of them are. I think that's the plan. Instead of, a secondary or tertiary transfer acquisition, you are instead replacing those backups with these guys. And again, I know West Virginia doesn't recruit backups. We've heard it. They don't recruit backups, but somebody's got a backup. But because of all these acquisitions, and it was 35 out of 43 when we got the initial list when Rich Rodriguez took, it got up to 49. And I believe out of the 49, it's going to be 40 that are enrolling early. So those 40 plus the holdovers coming back from last year's roster, plus any transfer additions, because you're not going to add transfers in January that won't enroll until the summer. Like that, just the handful that you add, or the 20 that you add, whatever it's going to be, they're going to enroll. So I think the numbers wise here, this is the big reason it will be different this year, or should be different, is that instead of 59% of your roster participating in spring football, it's going to be like 85 because all of these guys are going to be there. The returners, the vast majority of this recruiting class, the transfer acquisitions, and then they can't leave. There's no post spring portal window. Now, that's going to help everybody. So that's not a big leg up for West Virginia, but that's going to be a big difference. So instead of 59%, it's going to be, heck, it might be higher than 85% because what is it? The nine signees, and then any kind of, like you mentioned, the guys that kind of trickle in late May or in the summer or whatever might push it to 15 kids out of 120 that won't be on the spring roster. So maybe 90% of the roster will participate in spring football. That's a big difference.
That's a huge difference. Let's
Yeah.
competitively for sure, but also just, I mean, think about Rodriguez talking like the fog for the first three, 4 games these past 2 seasons. First at Jacksonville State, now at West Virginia. That's gone. You might have a few questions just because the lights are on for the first time, but you'll be able to really test people in those summer practices and even the workouts before that too to get a really good idea of who can play and who can't. That should be a better. And then look at their non-conference next year, Chris. Um, like that should be a big step forward, I think, for them too. And to the point you make, it can't go out like they're coming in and the door's locking behind them, so to speak, which is kind of a brutal way to put it, but darn if it isn't true because they're here, right? They better try to make this work. I think that's a maybe like a slightly golden part of this. People don't understand. They can't like sneak out if it doesn't go their way. If they don't like what they have, they really got to buckle down. And like you said, they could leave and sit out of here, but do they really want to do that? Or just try to give it a shot and realize maybe I'm homesick, maybe I'm shocked by the system right now, but perhaps this is something that I need to like take some time to figure out. And that'll be a big difference as well. Like you're not going to have. I mean, think of how many players left after the spring last year. They've used a lot of them. I don't know. We'll see. Actually, we saw it probably, I guess, but it's not they hemorrhaged really good players. But you're not going to have any of that here. So guys, you put time into recruiting, you spent money on. If it doesn't work out for them in the spring, okay, now hit the summer and see if it works and see if you can get a little bit better. So I don't want to say no excuses, Chris, but there's fewer now, which is probably the way the coaches want it too.
Yeah.
Like I think that, like I'm saying that like it sounds like it's a bad thing and it's ominous for the coaches, but I would imagine that Rodriguez much would rather do it this way, where you can get players and they can't leave,
Yeah.
or you get players who commit to the portal opens and closes, and then you know what your roster is. by and large. You might have small defections for one reason or another. Like, but I don't even think the postgraduate thing, I don't even think exists anymore. Like, you can't just randomly go into the portal at any time, I don't believe. And that's a small number of players they have there too. So I'll look into that. I'm trying to think about that postgraduate thing. I
Yeah, I
don't
think
think
they
it's
got rid of
open to
that
all.
or put a lot bigger restrictions on it because you're right. It used to be just if you were graduate transfer, you could just leave at any time because you
Mhm.
graduated. I think that's either gone or severely limited.
All right, that's interesting. That's pretty much all I have on football. Like, just a lot still happening. Do you think we're done with headlines here? Like, we have Jake Castile news today,
Yep.
but like I imagine, and there will be some coaching stuff just naturally. Jake Castile, the new head coach at Glenville State. You knew the head coach at West Virginia, at Glenville State, was going to come from the West Virginia staff. You did not know it was going to be Jake Castile, though, did you?
I did not.
Um,
I mean,
expect some coaching
this is going
stuff.
to keep happening like over the next few weeks, several weeks. Again, like what most of these contracts are still February.
Mhm.
Um, but you're going to see like the dominoes are going to start falling like this. Like the places that need new coaches will start hiring new coaches. Then those coaches got to fill out their staffs, and then they'll pull from other staffs, which will pull from other staffs, and so on. So I think it's just going to trickle out over the next 2 months, trickle out and trickle back in. Guys getting new jobs, guys coming back. It's not going to be all. I don't want to imagine it's going to be like you know, what, January 5th, and Rich Rodriguez holds a press conference. It's like, all right, here's the 23 coaches that are no longer coaching at WVU, and here's the 15 we invited to stay. Thank you. No questions.
Mhm.
It's just going to be slowly, guys, maybe again, guys finding new jobs, and then guys that West Virginia didn't want also finding new jobs. And you'll never hear that West Virginia didn't want them. It's just that they found a new job. And that's the way it's going to go. And
Yeah,
that's
that's your
okay.
immediate headlines here. I would think transfer portal, you might see players announce they're going. That's going to happen too,
Yeah.
but you're not going to see any acquisitions. And then, boy, it's going to be a sprint once January 2nd comes along because that initial 3 days where everybody kind of suddenly, oh, I'm in the portal and I have a new place. Heck, 3 days, that's a long time. The initial 3 hours, people pick their new spots. We'll see. What'd you make of the quarterback line from Rodriguez before we go?
Uh,
About as political and as delicate as he could handle it, but
yeah.
also as clear and I don't want to say aggressive, but they're going to be in there.
Yeah, I was gonna say I'm glad he said it so that we could stop answering the question about it. Maybe
Uh,
he kind of said the same thing we've been saying for 3 months. I don't know. I mean, it's all it's the things you got to put together for the big picture. Like John Johnson, the guy from New Orleans, and I put that story up today or no over the weekend. And again, you guys go read that because did you read it yet, Mike? I know you were out of
I
town
did.
this weekend,
Caught
but
on the
like
plane. Yep. Mhm.
on Monday, it's like, yeah, 2 days before signing day, Rich Rodriguez called my high school coach. And that, like, literally, my question was, take me all the way back to when you first started talking to WVU. And he's like, well, Monday. Like, oh, okay, cool. But, essentially came to him and said, hey, I want you to play running back or quarterback. Like in my offense, you are a quarterback. Everybody else might be telling you you're not, but you are in mine. And they went after, and I hinted at it in our last podcast. They went after Legend Bay, the big time recruit that was that. I mean, don't burn any bridges there because I don't know if you saw it. He's the one that wanted to sign with one school, but his parents didn't want him to, and he's only 17, so his letter of intent's not official unless his parents sign it. So then his parents refused to sign it unless he went where they wanted him to go. So
Mhm.
I think he turns 18 in like a month, so he might be available in a month. Um, so don't rule anything out. But West Virginia went to him and was like, "You will play quarterback if you come here." They tried to get him too. Like, I mean, they did not stop all week long of signing day period. They tried to get him all day Wednesday. They were on the phone with him during signing day ceremonies, being
Wow.
like, "Hey, if you and your parents are arguing about Tennessee and Ohio State, West Virginia is right here, and you can play quarterback. Come on." So um, he's making an aggressive pitch to get a lot more athletes in that quarterback room. That's for sure.
Including assistant tight end coach Anthony Becht, just to make room for.
Yeah, yeah, you're starting something I don't want to get started in. So
He's got to go to Penn State, right?
that's what I would think.
Sheesh. I talked to somebody who's in the money scene at West Virginia at the basketball game on what day was it last week? Wednesday. It was Wednesday. It was signing day, and they're like, I don't know why they just don't go back to Matt Campbell. And I was like, huh? And I guess they had the conversation early, but like I was told that like it didn't go anywhere because they just never got on the phone together. They couldn't make it work. So like there was some sort of miscommunication or whatever,
Hmm.
and 7 or 8 different things happened. All of a sudden, Matt Campbell is there too, which brings me back to this, Chris. I was never able to disprove that West Virginia was like in on Matt Campbell last year. Can't prove it. I know we talked about this before, but like that was the one thing somebody I remember asking me before we were putting that hot board to bed. What's the one rumor, the one piece of information? And like I knew what this person was getting at, but the Matt Campbell thing was just like floating around last year. They never really got a lot of traction. I don't know how far it went, but nobody ever told me that was nuts for bringing that up. So I was just thinking like I land in Tucson, Arizona on Thursday night to the news that Matt Campbell's gone. I was like, man, what if I was what if first year West Virginia coach Matt Campbell was leaving for the
Oh
Penn
God.
State job? My vacation would be ruined here. My 3 day weekend with family. What a world. And now, that's the other thing too. It took 7 or 8 weeks for Penn State to find a coach, and it took Jamie Pollard 7 or 8 minutes to find a coach.
God,
Pretty
what a
good,
ridiculous,
and a
what a,
good one
so
too.
ridiculous.
Yeah,
Yeah,
and a good
I
one.
mean, Penn State could not have screwed that up worse. I mean, getting out in front of it by firing James Franklin so they can get a head start, so they can keep their roster together, all that stuff, and then just to be last to the table, just absolutely last.
Has Neil Brown hired anybody yet on his staff? I've heard some names, familiar
I
name.
don't know.
Yeah, watch Matt Moore, Tyler Allen, guys like that going down there pretty soon. Not that it matters here anymore because those guys are all off the books. Mm. That's about it.
Mm. All right, well,
Basketball Tuesday. Headlines on football from Gold Blue Enterprises. Who knows what type of revenue generator they'll have soon. Chris, do not forget to vote for the Heisman Trophy today.
I've already done it.
Okay. Oh boy,
I,
I got to do it today because Saturday kind of scrambled my eggs a little bit, and I got to figure out what's real and what's not. It could be a year for a dark horse. Somebody who has like the most second place votes or might actually win this thing, just
yeah,
because it's pretty open. Like what happens? I don't know. I don't know. He can look at that game and be like, I must vote for Julian Say, and I must vote for Fernando Mendoza right now.
right.
But Diego Pavia? Question mark. We'll see. He's going to be a darling, I'm sure.
Hmm.
All right, I have a little more. Do you?
Nope, that's it.
All right, let's sign off here. Plenty coming up on the website. Back to business with just the regular old, I don't know, recruiting, football, basketball. Same old, just a different day. Until then, I'm Mike Casazza.
And I'm Chris Anderson.
We'll talk to you then.